My name is Joe Peroni, and this is the Rise Above Project. Today I'm going to talk about why self-discovery is the greatest addiction and why Socrates said that the unexamined life is not worth living. I'm going to give you a couple of examples. But first, how do you solve a problem? The first way to do that, or the first part, is to recognize that there is a problem. But what if you don't recognize that there's a problem? And what if you believe that the behavioral problem or the psychological problem that you might have is actually your strength? So you actively pursue that in order to make yourself a better person. I'll explain more. So let me tell you about this spiritual seminar that I went to just recently. I'm going to tell you about a couple of the exercises. The first exercise is where you had to stand across from somebody, say about 10 feet or so. There was about 30 people at this, but this was a one-on-one type of thing in this particular part. And you would do this with a few different people. So the first time, you would stand about 10 feet apart from somebody. And on the first part, I had to summon somebody forward. And as they would walk forward, if I felt uncomfortable, what I could do is I could tell them to stop. And then from there, if I still felt uncomfortable, I could tell them to go back. And so that was just a very simple exercise that we had to do. But here's the interesting part. Every person that I had to summon forward, I would let them walk forward. Now, you could either look them in the eye, you could look the other way. There was no actual rule on that. But every person that I had to summon forward, I did feel a little bit uncomfortable. I didn't know any of these people. But with every person, I allowed them to walk forward. Now, why would I do that? Well, again, self-discovery. It seems that because it was all different people that I was involved with and I did the same thing over and over again, that it was obviously my issue. And it really came down to is that I didn't want to make anybody feel bad and I didn't want to offend anybody by telling them that I was uncomfortable with them being near me. And William's trying to knock over the camera right now. And so I had great difficulty in telling somebody to stop. And I definitely wasn't going to tell them to move back because I didn't want to make them feel like there was something wrong with them. And so I just allowed them to move forward. Now, even more interestingly, when I was on the receiving side of that, when they would summon me forward, I would step up, and sometimes they would tell me to stop. Now, from this side, now I again took it upon myself, and I thought, what about me, or what am I doing wrong to make this person feel uncomfortable? Which is really interesting in terms of self-discovery, because no matter which side of this exercise I was on, I was completely taking over the whole responsibility for everything. Number one, I didn't want to make anybody else feel bad. And then when they told me to stop, instead of allowing them to feel what they need to feel, for example, I might be a pretty scary guy, right? I'm a white heterosexual male, definitely on the masculine side. And so that scares some people. You never know what their background is. You have no idea what they have gone through. You have no idea why they're going to this spiritual retreat. And somebody like me, I could be a little bit off-putting for some people. But again, I took it upon myself to feel bad for them and worry about what I did wrong. So I thought that was an interesting thing to learn. The other exercise that we had was where there was touch, and you were either a giver or a receiver. Now, the giver would touch their partner in the way that the partner wanted them to do and where they wanted them to be touched for 3 minutes. And if you were the taker, you could tell your partner, I want you to touch me in the shoulders for 3 minutes. I want it to be light or more medium or deep tissue massage, anything like that. So you had to take over and tell the other person, again, how you wanted the massage and where you wanted the massage. And again, the same thing took over. When I was the giver, it was much easier for me because I was able to do that. But again, I was worried about, am I doing this well enough? Now, as the taker, to be able to summon somebody else to say, I want to be massaged this way and in this place, it was very difficult for me to allow that to happen. Because as I was being touched in the shoulders, for example, my first thought was, I wonder if their fingers are getting tired. I wonder how they feel during this. Are my muscles still hard enough? Am I still in shape? Like, so again, I was taking on full responsibility for not just for my feelings, but for the other person's feelings. So what does all this mean? Well, I'm not totally sure, but I can tell you this. If you're a person like this that allows your boundaries to be broken because you're always worried about being good enough and you're always taking on the responsibility of other people, it could put you in some not so advantageous positions in life. You might not go after the things you want. You might allow people to walk on you. You might not be able to draw the line at certain situations where you should. And again, a lot of these exercises were to teach you to be able to say the words, no, step back, I've had enough of this, or I would like more of this, can you please do more? So it's about advocating for yourself. So in this, I was showing signs of being a peacemaker, being a perfectionist, again, being overly responsible. And even though I didn't know any of these people, it almost felt like I was wanting a good Yelp review from all these people to think, yeah, he's a good person, or he didn't make me feel bad in any way. You know, he didn't push me too far, or he didn't ask me too much. And I thought that was really interesting. So we're going to keep the show pretty short today. But what's the moral of this story? Well, I don't know the moral totally, but I don't think that you know or anybody can understand where all their problems come from if they're not actively seeking to be able to be a better person, if they're not seeking to be on this journey for self-improvement. If you're not looking for it, if you're not trying to do better, I think you can unconsciously live a life and think that that's just normal and that's the way it is. I think I'll address this more in other shows, but I have I've had a lot of questions from people, and they'll say, I read a lot of books, I listen to a lot of YouTube videos, and I kind of feel that I know what to do, but I don't feel like I can actually put it in motion. I don't know why I can't do it. And I think it's because there's a lot of unconscious drives that we have that are really running the show. And yet we don't know why that is. And we need to look further to see what's going on to know that. So as I look at myself here, and there's a lot of things to look at, so let's just look at one. Why might I feel like I have to work twice as hard as everybody else to get something done? And why is it that I would ask very little from other people? In other words, to make myself small so I'm not too much of a burden to other people. One of the interesting things I came up with as I was thinking about this, at a very young age, let's say 12 years old, maybe 11, but I think I was 12, I come from a family without a lot of resources, without a lot of money, without a lot of power and prestige. And I knew this, right? I could see, I could look around. I mean, most of the people that I knew had a lot more than me. And when I went to work at 12 years old as a busboy, I used to work for these parties. They were either bar mitzvahs or weddings. And these parties, if you can believe this, now we're talking, if I was 12, we're looking at 1970, actually maybe I was older, let's say 1979 or 78. So I was about 13 years old, give or take. So we're looking at 1978. Even then, the parties that they were running were anywhere between $100,000 to $300,000 for the night. I mean, there were two, three, 400 people at these parties with a live band and all of these things going on. And this comes from a person that had nothing of that. So you're seeing all these people with so much money and all of this extravagance. And then at the end of the night, maybe if the boss was nice, would, round up some leftover salmon that was half eaten, put it in a garbage bag and send it home with me. That type of thing. So you start to think, okay, like, how can I get from where I am to where these people are? And it's like, well, there is no moment to waste. You can't take any time doing anything to the left and right. You got to go right down the center and work as hard as possible and not take any breaks and not give yourself any time to be wrong or to go off in the wrong direction or any of these types of things. And I think that's one of the ways that a person could learn this, is to see an environment that they're in that says that you're really small. And so you try to do all these things to make up for it. And so you don't ask much from other people. And so you try to make yourself small that way, so you're not much of a burden and you're taking up less space. But on the other hand of that, you're working double time to increase yourself as a person, so you can have at least maybe just a touch of the power and prestige of everything that you're seeing around you. And so thus you go to a spiritual retreat and somebody stops you from moving forward and you go, ooh, what am I doing wrong? And then on the other hand, when it's time for me, again, to wave somebody forward, I continue to let them come forward because I don't want to hurt their feelings. So I hope this was valuable to you in some way, to help you maybe to do some self-discovery on your own, to see what are maybe the unconscious drives that are running some of your decisions. My name is Joe Peroni. This is the Rise Above Project. Please subscribe and tell a friend. Thank you.